talking of warm welcomes, it's so cozy here. Is it okay if I just do it from here? Literally, I don't know whether I've got this wrong because it was so unbelievably cozy back there. That I was thinking, there's no way Ollie was going to let me speak from there. But if I overheat myself now, will I be even colder up here? And I started having this sort of rant. Anyway, good morning. We're going to be talking about the Bible. Yay! Oh, well done. And check this out. I think this book is alive. Do you believe the Holy Bible is alive? Something disturbing about that, isn't it? It's not just an awesome book, and I love books. I read about, literally at the moment, I'm probably reading, about 10 books at the same time. Is anybody else who just has to have lots of books on? Yeah, we've got a few. Yeah, well done. Good, not just me. I absolutely love books. And these are timeless books. I've got a couple of classics on the go. Have you read Les Mis? Who's read Les Mis? Hands up. Oh, hardly anybody. It's such a great book. But I'm about halfway. It's hard. I'm about halfway through. Oh my goodness, it does get unbelievably dull. But the beginning is gorgeous. Do you push through? It's worth it. Yeah. Okay. I can weep. I would read the beginning again and weep over it. But actually, the middle. Wow. But there's something different going on with this book, because we believe that it's alive. In fact, the book itself tells us that this is a living word, that actually it has a power about itself, that it's not just something that we reflect on in the past, but it lives in the present, that the stories in the past somehow are still alive themselves, still being played out in the history of humanity. That as we read them, they start to become part of us and can become part of our story, and we merge into this story. It's important because this book has the very beginning of time, and then it weaves up, and then it comes to the end of time. And so the whole of history, what's happened before, what's happening now even, in a sense, and where we're heading to is in this book. Very, very powerful. And so we're going to read today. Basically today I've just been invited to sort of do a little Bible study with you guys and just take you through, give you an idea of where I would head in. We're trying to learn, one of the things on the, you asked for it, was going deeper in the Bible. And so I just thought, well, I'll just tell you how I approach a particular passage, and hopefully that'll be useful for some of you and a reminder to others. But as soon as I thought about saying that, I thought, do you know what? There's a reason why this passage has come to my mind. I want to tell you two stories, one from the New Testament, one from the Old Testament. There's a reason why the story in the Old has come to my mind. And I want, as I take you through this sort of practical revision, I want you to think, why now, in my story, that's your story, I've had to think for myself as well, and it's really clear. It was quite a random selection. In fact, I heard Ollie say something about this passage the other day, and I just thought, ooh, it just stuck with me, it resonated with me. So I want you to ask yourself, as we go through, why, God, do you want me to hear this word today? And that's when we really start to get some traction. It stops being a story and starts to come alive. So if you've got a Bible, open it up. Now's your moment to show off. If you've got an app, get that app up and running. If you haven't, don't worry, you can Google. We should give out Wi-Fi codes and things, and I don't know, anyway. We're reading from Matthew chapter 7, and it's verse 24. It'll probably come up on the screen. Therefore, everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise man who built his house on the rock. The rain came down, the streams rose, and the winds blew and beat against that house. Yet it did not fall because it had its foundation on the rock. But everyone who hears these words of mine and does not put them into practice is like a foolish man who built his house on sand. The rain came down, the streams rose, the winds blew and beat against that house, and it fell with a great crash. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Amen. Let's say a little prayer, shall we? Father God, we long to hear from you. Would you just open up your word now? Would you speak through my words? May my words honor you, Lord. And would you powerfully change us by your word to your glory? Amen. Amen. Basically, when I look at a passage like this, I've gone through 3 different stages. And the first stage is get the point. Get the point of what the passage is saying. And for me, the important thing here is that it says, therefore, everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice. It's a therefore. Straight away suggests that something else has happened beforehand that he's now going, in the light of that, this is now what I want to say. So the first thing is check out what's happening just before a passage that you're looking at and just after a passage, and check out what the context is. Does that change the meaning of what you think it is? Lots of us are familiar with the story of a house that stands and a house that crashes. But how often have we missed the therefore? Actually, if we look earlier on, this is the Sermon on the Mount. So Jesus is teaching the Sermon on the Mount, which is like the most epic sermon about ethical living and how to live in a way that would bring the kingdom of God to be, that you might live in a way that loves your neighbor and loves God. And it's really, really important that we understand that he's saying, after all these teachings and all these advice that I'm giving you, therefore, everyone who hears this will be one of 2 categories. Those of you who want to go deeper in the Bible might want to be thinking about why the most epic sermon that Jesus gave, where he gives ethical living, was on a mountain in the first place. And there's another mountain that happens much, much earlier in the Old Testament where Moses receives the law of God on the mountain. And so Jesus is just revisiting that the sign of Moses was a call to say, a greater one than me is coming with an even bigger message. And this is the message that Jesus has got for us. What sort of stuff was he talking about? Well, he says, blessed are the poor in spirit. Blessed are those who mourn. Blessed are the meek. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness. Blessed are the merciful. Blessed are the pure in heart. Blessed are the peacemakers. And blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness, because of right living by God. Straight away, Jesus says, well, you know what? Everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise man or a wise woman. It's not that he's talking to people, he's not splitting the division between people who've never heard anything at all. This is not the classic, people who don't know God, people who do know God. This is way more challenging and upsetting than that. He's saying everybody who's heard me speaking, everyone who's heard the words of Christ, either puts them into practice or doesn't. When I'm thinking, what is the point of this passage, Jesus? What I got from it was actions speak louder than words. Actions speak louder than words. Now, this is tricky for me and for Ollie because a large part of what we do is to get up on the stage and talk to you guys, to tell you something that we think that God might be meaning through his word, or literally just to read out the word. And this is super dangerous. It really, literally is a problem because I can stand here and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk, but Jesus says, everyone who hears these words of mine and talks and talks, no, he doesn't say talks and talks and talks. He says puts them into practice. I'm a foolish man if I keep telling you about God and who he is and how he wants me to live, and I haven't put them into practice. You are the wise people if you go away and you put it into practice. Please God that I would and we would strengthen each other to put these things into practice, that we might stand. I wonder what stage in various points in your life you're in this morning. I wonder whether you're in a situation in your family or in your marriage, in your parenting, in your workplace, with your health, with stress, where you're like, do you know what? I can't do it anymore. I wonder how many people here have got to the point, even today, where you've thought, I'm done. I've had it. I'm going to walk away. See, the other thing I get from this passage is that weather is inevitable. Happens for everybody. Doesn't matter whether you built your house on the sand. That's easy. Building a life upon the words of God, well, it's easy if it's sand. Sand is dead easy to build on, requires no effort at all. It's nice and soft and smooth, whereas if you want to build your house on the rock, you've got to dig. You've got to make an effort. You've got to find the rock for a start. You've got to search, dig and dig and dig until you find that rock, and then you're going to start building your house on the rock. There's one or the other. What's interesting is that both houses look exactly the same from the surface. They don't look different. One of them's on sand, though, and one of them's ground down and found that solid rock to plant it on. And we've got to ask, well, which am I? Am I going to remain standing when the weather comes? And the weather's coming, whether you like it or not, whether you're someone who's put your roots down and have built yourself on the rock, or whether you're someone who's just built on the sand. That rain comes, and some of us are feeling the rain at the moment. The constant drip, drip, drip of life and the pressure of life just pushing us down. Some of us have reached saturation point, and the flood waters are starting to rise, and it's getting tricky, and you're thinking, I don't know whether I'm going to be able to do this. For some of us, you're buffeted by the wind, so you've made a stand somewhere in your life, and actually you're being knocked off that and moved away from that. The first point for this passage, as I can see, is actions speak louder than words. We've got to do stuff, and we need courage to do that. So I always get the point, oh, I think that's what it is. Might not be. It says actually, this is the next one actually, check the point. And you should test, I'm saying this about the point I've already said, test everything that is said, hold on to what is good, but you also need to test the things that Ollie and I and the other guys who speak, anybody who speaks from this stage says. You need to test whether it makes sense, whether it's in the Word, whether it fits with the Word. And the first thing that we can do with that point is go, well, does that fit with other things that I know about the Bible? So does the whole concept of putting actions first, does that stick in the Bible? Well, James constantly wrote about this. James in the book of James was constantly saying, actually, faith without works is dead. It doesn't matter what you do. Paul wrote about the fruit of the Spirit. When you live for Christ, when you're grounded on Him, there'll be fruit. You'll see the fruit. It's not just a matter of saying stuff and not seeing anything. You need to be able to see some stuff. Equally, what I use is Bible Hub. Hands up if you use Bible Hub or you've ever been on the website Bible Hub. Couple. I love Bible Hub. It's so helpful. Get in there if you're going to do a Bible study and you want to go deeper in the Bible. Use Bible Hub. It's got all sorts of different resources there. The one that I'm thinking of is that it tells you all the other passages in that same in the Bible that relate to the one you've got. So there's a couple of verses in Proverbs that say much the same thing. So it wasn't like we haven't gone way off piste by looking into this. And in Proverbs it says that the house of the righteous will remain standing when the storm comes, whereas the house of the wicked will fall. Check the point. Does it make sense? The other thing I like to do is check whether the point I've got from a passage actually fits with the greatest commandment. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, strength, soul, and mind. Does that fit with putting my life on the rock, putting these ethical things into action? Yes. Love your neighbor as yourself. Does that fit with the point that I've got from this passage? Yeah. The other thing I like to do is think, is there a story in the Old Testament that resonates with me with everything that I'm hearing from there? So I don't know, I like to do a foray. I'm not even sure if that's a word. Is foray a word? I mean, it's obviously a word, but is it the right word? That's an entirely different question. I like to do a foray into the Old Testament. So I was thinking to myself, does this make me think of any stories in the Old Testament? And actually the story of Abraham and Lot really came to mind. So there's Abraham is like the one who received the big promise from God that you'll have descendants as many as the stars and the sand grains. And he and Lot are on this journey of life. And Lot is his nephew. And they've basically got loads of flocks. And the people who keep their flocks are starting to fight each other and hate each other. And so Abraham goes, we need to separate. This is not working out. And he says, look around, and wherever you want to go and put your tent, where you want to go, Lot, you can have first choice. It's like self-denial. And Lot says, he looks around and he goes, I can see some sandy ground. It's really lush, and it's near a city. I'm going to do some trading with that city, and that looks like ideal. I'm taking that. And Abraham's like, okay, if you want to take that, take that. He goes for the easy way out. He's lots of attractive things about living in that way. But actually, he's really close to where all the pagan people are. So there's risk there. But he's gone for that looks shiny and nice, I'm going to go and get that. Abraham actually turns towards the mountainous area. That's all that's left, and it looks like a really grim and difficult situation for him. Immediately that he turns and says, well, I'll just trust God, God says to him, you will be prosperous in this particular area. As the story goes on, and I start reading these stories, I just can't stop. So I've got about 3 hours to take you through this story. It's going to be fine. might just be me that does this. Everyone else is like, yeah, we were fine with the house thing. But for me, I'm like, I've got to keep going now. I'm reading the story of Abraham and Lot, and it's so exciting because basically Lot is he's camped right next to Sodom and Gomorrah, and the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah go to war, and they lose that war, and then Lot ends up getting carried off as a slave of war and gets kidnapped. And it just goes to show, like, it wasn't a great idea to go for the shiniest thing. And I wonder in our lives whether sometimes we think, oh, do you know what? I'm just going to go for the easiest way out here. I had this thing going on when I was at university where I was, like, living this dual life, where I was compromised, where I was doing a religious thing on a Sunday, and then I would even go to, like, a little group, a little Christians at uni group. And then the rest of the time, I was out with my friends, doing all sorts of crazy stuff. Completely hypocritical lifestyle. I wasn't grounded. I hadn't made good choices. I was compromised. I had heard the words, but I wasn't really putting them into action. So poor old Lot gets kidnapped, and then Abraham finds out that he's been kidnapped, and he chases after him, and he recaptures Lot, and he brings him back, and he rescues him, and he goes back to the kings of Sodom, and he actually gives all the stuff back, which is really interesting as well to me. Literally, it's just me. Oh, no, I can see you smiling. Thank you. He gives all the stuff back. He's got all the plunder, and he gives it all back to the king. And the king's like, no, you need to take some. And he says, no. I don't want my prosperity ever to be said that it was you that made me prosperous. I don't want this pagan person to say it was you're the reason that I'm prosperous. I want God to be the reason that I'm prosperous. If I'm going to prosper, it's because of God, not because of what you are. And he walks away from this huge gift and bounty. So check the point. Does it resonate? The final thing is find Jesus, or look for Jesus. Jesus says on the road to Emmaus, after he's been resurrected and he's walking with those guys and they don't recognize him, and he says, all Scripture speaks about me. This is literally the point. So where is Jesus in the story? Well, our story, our first story, is this story of the wise man and the foolish man or woman building houses on rock or not. And obviously Jesus is speaking, so that's easy. That's grade one. Well done. Is Jesus in the story? Yes, he was speaking. Let's go deeper. Is he there anywhere else? Jesus is the rock, isn't he? Jesus is the rock. It's his words we're putting into action. It's his life that we're emulating. We're following him. He is the Word of God. He's the author and the finisher. It's those of us who are thinking about stopping. He didn't just author your faith. He didn't just start it. He's also the finisher of our faith. He's not going to leave you. He's not going to leave me. He's going to finish it. We call him the cornerstone. We sing that song, Cornerstone, don't we? He's reliable. You know, when the storms come, and they come for both, it's not the house that withstands the storm, it's the rock. It's not us. It's not us that have to withstand the storm. It's him. We've just got to cling on tight to him, emulating him, following him. And he will keep you strong. He's very much in this story. Could he possibly be in the story of Abraham and Lot? It's a little bit more random, isn't it? Well, you could say, well, Abraham went to rescue Lot, so Jesus is the great rescuer, and Lot had been wayward, and he was merciful, and Abraham was merciful. But actually, something really bizarre starts happening in this story. And you've got to read Genesis 13 if you do nothing else. I probably should have just done that, actually. It would have been better. In the story, he's rescued Lot, and on the way back, he meets this strange character that comes out of the middle of nowhere. He's called Melchizedek. And he's said that he's a high priest and the king of Salem. He's got no history before this. He's never mentioned in the story the history of Israelites before. And he's got no history afterwards. He's never mentioned in the history books afterwards. But for some reason, the author puts in Abraham, who is this unbelievably successful man of God, the one who's got the promise on his life, as he returns from rescuing Lot, meets this character called Melchizedek, who's a high priest. The only problem is that priests haven't actually happened with Abraham yet. Abraham's people will produce the priests. They start to have the priests who act as a mediator between God and man, to make peace, to make it possible that we can even approach God. But that hasn't even happened yet. And yet here's a priest in the middle of nowhere. It's an extraordinary, strange, intriguing story. Then check out what happens. The priest comes out and he offers Abraham bread and wine. Now, from our perspective, as Christians, we're like, well, we know priests offer bread and wine. That's about Jesus' body and blood, his sacrifice for us so that we're at peace with God. But that hasn't happened yet. Does he give anything else? No. He just offers him bread and wine. And Abraham, replaying back to our gift Sunday, he says, have 10% of what I've got, and gives the first tithe to this Melchizedek. That's just something really curious. End of story. Bye. He goes off and he carries on and he gives his stuff to the king of Salem, as I've told you, the king of Sodom, as I've told you. You'd think that wasn't that relevant, but it's worth digging in. If you want to go deeper in the Bible, start looking at Bible Hub, start Googling, look at gotquestions.org. It's a great place to find out what on earth is going on with stuff. Look at Wikipedia now. There's no excuse. It's everywhere. Wikipedia's got a page on Melchizedek. That's why I know about him. No. Stop it. I've got a degree, you know. Yeah, I don't think I mentioned Melchizedek yet. Someone was laughing really slowly. That was terrifying. And good. You'd think nothing else was said, but several centuries later, King David is writing the Psalms or having them written about him and for him. And the Psalms are very, very dominant in telling us about the Messiah that's coming. They predict or prophesy the Messiah that's coming. The Messiah is the one who's going to save us, the one who's going to rescue God's people, the one who's going to give us hope and a future and bring us to heaven. And the Psalms are dominant in saying the Messiah is going to be like this, the Messiah is going to be like that. What do the Psalms say about Melchizedek? They say about the Messiah, you are a priest in the order of Melchizedek. In the same way like Melchizedek, you are a priest. Isn't that extraordinary? He's appeared again. Seems like David was curious about him too. And then if you go to Hebrews 7, you find that Paul also, you've got to be reading Hebrews if you want to read the Old Testament, because Paul very helpfully explains the whole thing. And I'd love to read 6 or 7 chapters, but I'm not allowed. This is chapter 7, though. This Melchizedek, here he is. Actually, the sentence before, like I said, check it out before, says, he has become a high priest forever in the order of Melchizedek. This Melchizedek was king of Salem and priest of God Most High. He met Abraham returning from the defeat of the kings and blessed him, and Abraham gave him 1/10 of everything. First, the name Melchizedek means king of righteousness. Then also, king of Salem means king of peace. Without father or mother, without genealogy, without beginning of days or end of life, resembling the Son of God, he remains a priest forever. And he goes on and on and on. It's breathtaking. Now, some people will tell you that this is typology. It basically means that there's an echo of the coming Messiah, even in that story, preparing the people of God, preparing you and me, that this Jesus is coming who is going to do something extraordinary and save us. That's how great his love is for us. But other people would say this is a Christophany. That is, this is an appearance of the Christ, even before Christmas Day. See, the Bible, John says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. From the beginning is Jesus. And in Colossians, Paul says, creation happened with him and through him. He was there in the beginning. After all, other people would say, who on earth do you think Adam and Eve were walking with in the garden? Could it be Jesus? The Christ who was and is to come. What I'm saying is the Bible's good. You've got to get into it. It'll change your world. Why do we plant our feet on a rock? Because it's beautiful. Because it's safe. Because God has been writing a story of your and my rescue in histories of time, in Abraham's time, in David's time, in Paul's time, in Jesus' time, and now in Plymouth in a church called St. Matt's. He's still writing his story. Today we celebrate flash-in-the-pan fame, 5-minute wonders, and then they go and we forget about them. But God will ask us, who's going to last the time? Who's going to keep going? Who's going to stand no matter how much weather or rain comes? And the answer is Jesus will. And if you are building your house on him, you too will stand. Would you help me to put these words into practice? I'm going to try and help you. Let's be a strong people of God who don't give up. The risk of a slightly odd sentence. Shall we stand? Let's take a moment with our eyes closed, hands open, or at the very least out of our pockets as a sign of welcome to God. Whatever you're comfortable with. It's time to do some business. Just ask for a specific word or wanting to claim this word.